Yet I conquer fear and fall like a sword. I run into the heat of day, like a knife I fight until the fight is won. In the rain I save each and every one till this war is won.
It's been a few years, but we did finally get an answer from Nintendo about where they were going to take the 3D platformer branch of the Mario franchise. If you've been into games for any period of time, then you'll have heard the old joke after the release of Super Mario Galaxy 2. What the hell could Nintendo do after they went into space? Are they going to do universe? Dimensions? The multiverse maybe? But instead of going big, bigger, and biggest, it was an oddity to see that Odyssey was next on the list. An oddity that turned into a stupor of hype as Nintendo actually made an announcement of this game early in the cycle, rather than sticking up a logo for 2 years and letting it sputter out of control. The things Nintendo were showing off with the console in its early days was nothing short of mesmerizing and intriguing to everyone involved, to the point that some crafty punks were trolling quote-unquote anti-Nintendo game critics pre-launch. Suffice it to say, Odyssey had a lot to prove to the world upon release, and even before I started writing these words, the strangest thing I saw about Odyssey was that it seemed to have universal appeal, almost to the Undertale level, which was strange coming from a Nintendo game and all the baggage that carries with it nowadays. But like I always say, you don't know how good or bad something is until you experience it yourself, and I ended up finding a copy of Odyssey at an agreeable price, popped it in, and got to see a revelation. After clicking start and fiddling with the usual options, Nintendo immediately hits the player with a whammy as Odyssey begins mid-Peach kidnapping, with her in a wedding dress and Bowser in a white tuxedo boarding a dolled-up version of his airship. A fistfight between the hero and the villain ends short, and Mario falls into the token spooky level. It looks like Bowser has been stepping up his game since his pathetic universe-hopping days where he wasn't giving a crap. Yes, it is the usual princess rescuing plot that's in 57% of Mario games, but Nintendo gives him more screen time, better dialogue, and some direct henchmen that antagonize Mario many times throughout the game. This time it's the Brutals, a group of bosses that got lost on their way to the Sonic Team auditions, who serve the King Koopa as his wedding planners. With the two teams joining forces, Bowser decides to scour the globe acquiring supplies for his wedding. Yes, that's a serious thing that he is doing. And so Mario goes on an odyssey to stop the ceremony. Thankfully for our intrepid hero, he decided to randomly fall into a kingdom of sentient headwear that have already been harassed by the Brutals. In order to save the town, Mario and a local named Cappy team up to defeat the menace. If you've heard anything about this game, then it is definitely what happens next. Hell, it's so obvious that even Nintendo themselves admitted this was screwed up by making the intro cutscene to this ability as creepy as possible. The power that Cappy bestows Mario is the ability to throw Cappy and have Mario's consciousness override the creature that Cappy is on, allowing Mario to control their body. While the jokes are obvious, the whole Cappy body snatcher thing is what helps to make the game, because Mario meets many wildly varying and vibrant creatures on his Odyssey that grants any number of abilities that Nintendo could think of, and then design an impressive amount of original challenges around them. My personal favorite was the Sherman, those sentient tanks from New Donk City. Nothing beats a healthy dose of wanton destruction and power fantasy in a video game. The variety of stuff the player can do in Super Mario Odyssey is what makes it such an excellent game. It's everything that you would want in a Mario game, and even a bunch of stuff that you didn't know were on your wish list. Would you have expected RC cars to be so addictive? Or jump rope to be such an intense experience? No, but now you have it all in the newest Mario platform because Nintendo decided to include 800 power moons in this game. Yes, 8 flippin' 100, and they're all yours as long as you know where to look. Super Mario Odyssey is one of those rare games like Skyrim and Dark Souls that truly rewards exploration. And I don't mean in that cheap token way that Ubisoft would put it. No, in Super Mario Odyssey, the game is always subtly asking the player, hey, you want to go look around that corner? Want to go in that pond in the background? Can we please climb that giant cliffside and look around? And I could almost guarantee you that each one of those 3 checks would give you a power moon. Super Mario Odyssey rewards the player's exploration by putting these moons all over the map. Even in the most unassuming corner, you should check it anyway, because half the time you'll find one of those dastardly hidden trophies. A lot of the moons come in line with those unique gameplay challenges, where you'll have to do things like accurately flying through a cave using an octopus water jet, use a crawling creature to find your way through a mysterious poison swamp, and even use a giant piece of meat to get on top of a soup volcano. The game is so vibrant, deep, interesting, and full of so much crazy nonsense and delightful characters that it even manages to outdo the classic Super Mario 64, showing the audience that even through all of its missteps and mistakes, Nintendo has been learning these past 20 years, and have showed off that education by putting every bit of it into this blockbuster smash. The obvious high point for the game and one of the best Mario levels in the entire franchise was New Donk City, an upbeat, innovative, and fantastic sandbox, putting the cartoony Mario into a surprisingly realistic rendering of a steel and mortar metro city. Skyscrapers, movie theaters, cabs, and even a colorful mayor, Pauline, that character that only the old farts remember. Heck, even when the city was under siege by combat robots and it was covered in a thick layer of grime, trash, and despair, New Donk City couldn't help but look beautiful with its art style and rain effects. Nintendo banked heavy on New Donk being its coup de grace. Since the level has the most moons out of the other stages, it's set pretty late in the game, and it had the wonderful festival song that gave players the perfect send-off from New Donk in the main campaign, but also showed how much the fans are missing out in other Nintendo games that didn't have voice actors. Whoever is playing Pauline's voice actor can sing like the best of them. Plus, the unlockable costume from New Donk was one of my personal favorites. A great addition to Super Mario Odyssey, and one that actually attracted more of those dastardly trolls of Nintendo, was Mario's ability to purchase costumes from the shops during his journey. Since Odyssey is such a big game, Nintendo also introduced 2 different types of currencies in the game. And no, not in an Electronic Arts way, but in an actual video game way. There's the normal coins that can be found everywhere, and then there's purple types of coins that are specifically found in that level. They can both be used to purchase a huge selection of costumes for Mario that really helps to have players express themselves throughout the game. Do you want an explorer samurai, an underwater groom, or do you want to do what 70% of grown-ass gamers did and just have Mario run around in his underwear for the whole game? Again, it's another spot where Nintendo put in a lot of effort, and since the costumes weren't stuffed in loot boxes or DLC, it gives us a rare example of a game that we can 100% enjoy right out of the box. Something that's becoming so rare it might as well be dead nowadays. Obviously, the main goal of the game is to gather stars and use them as fuel for Cappy's ship, obviously named the Odyssey, so that they can chase Bowser and get Peach back. But unlike every other 3D Mario platformer, instead of picking one moon and going to get that one specifically, Nintendo just drops the player in a map and tells them to find moons, and that's because of the huge number of them. A lot of them are extremely easy to find just by looking under rocks, platforms, and enemies. Go to the frozen desert level and dick around for 10 minutes and you'll probably have the first 4 to your name. Thankfully, Nintendo didn't require a lot of moons from each world to get through the campaign, and what helps again is that Nintendo gives the player more specific objectives through the major levels, so that the player can be shown the whole world and get them pushed into exploring deeper into the unexplored depths of places, like that beach that was getting destroyed by the Duke of Octopi. While you will usually get to a boss fight with one of the Brutals, in the major game levels you'll also get another boss after that, which ends up being well designed, challenging, and fun to fight in a way that the Galaxy pair could only dream of designing. This especially helps the Bowser boss battles in the game, which do the Super Mario 64 thing of having 3 of the same fight throughout the game, but Bowser mixes it up with each go to make it harder, and I will say by the end I was getting into a bit of trouble with his fireball shooting and boulder smashing on top of having to bare knuckle box the Mad King with his own top hat. There's nothing like getting a well-deserved knockout on the guy after he laughs at Mario for being on fire. Once the deed is done and Mario crashes the wedding that was happening on the moon for maximum obnoxiousness to the guests, the game ends with Mario getting to control Bowser, and Mario gets to use his amazing strength to escape the collapsing moon and hit the credits. Throughout covering this franchise, at points Mario had devolved. Nintendo were doing projects that were clearly beneath them and were not rising to the standard of their history. Hell, the entire New Super Mario Bros. Series was a damn testament to Nintendo's laziness. The criticisms of Mario's bad times were there not because people were anti-Nintendo, it's because Nintendo has the talent to make games like Super Mario Odyssey, a joyous romp of a title that goes through a colorful spectrum of levels, an underwater palace, a Chinese temple, and a hidden plant factory. The quest that takes you through the collection of power moons in ridiculous and difficult to find areas that'll keep you occupied for hours even if you do use an online guide to 100% the areas. You'll get to be behind the wheel of classic enemies like Chain Chomps, Goombas, and Koopas, to the new dinosaur, frogs, and even a human being a couple of times, and help to take down scourges to the innocent, and eventually get your way towards kicking the door in at the Church on the Moon and save Princess Peach from an embarrassing string of meetings with the Mushroom Kingdom divorce man. The universal acclaim that was seen after Super Mario Odyssey's release was incredibly justified. There just aren't a ton of games out there that can match the ingenuity and the creativity of Nintendo's title today. It was actually one of the few games in the series that I went back and started completing it after I finished playing it. There is literally no reason to not play this Mario game if you have a Switch, other than the price holding pretty well from its release because it was so damned great. And with all the praise I've been sending Odyssey's way, we do come to the question of whether or not it's perfect, and I'm going to have to say no, but it's so damned close. I'd recommend it to the point of petitioning Nintendo of only releasing Odyssey-only Switch bundles from here on out. I'm surprised that we were able to reach the last game of the Mario branch of the franchise with one of the best ones ever made. It is quite literally a breath of fresh air for the Switch, for the Mario franchise, and maybe even enough to get the big players back on board and getting some more platformers into the mainstream. Yes, it's wishful thinking, but if anyone could shake up the industry, it's Nintendo. Next time we'll be doing something new, maybe some cleanup videos from the games I couldn't get around to this year, but whatever it is, make sure to come around for that release. Until then, I'll leave you all with that near perfect scoreboard. And wish you all a victory for gamers. Thanks for watching.